we're completely jumping franchises right now. But, Tom Holland's Peter
Multiverse.
Parker, he's all by himself right now. Essentially doesn't know hardly anybody. The Spider-Man franchise, there is just so much potential after No Way Home. I mean, people just, it was a dream come true. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I definitely hope they continue the Spider-Verse saga on Sony's end, along with MCU. I feel like, there's so many opportunities where we can get all of these Spider-Man together again. But I really hope that Marvel Studios focuses on the vulnerability of this new Peter. Like, I want to see this evolve Spider-Man. I want to see, he made his own suit. He is the classic friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I feel like a lot of people initially complained about, Tom Holland's iteration of him not being that classic Spider-Man that we're familiar with. At the end of No Way Home, he had a significant loss. And, he's broke and he's alone. And I think that a lot of people are thinking that's for the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man we've come to know. And I really hope that Marvel capitalizes off that. I'm talking way too much. I do apologize.
No, you're good. You're good, man. Like it's all fuel, man. But I really think, yeah, I agree with that. I think at the end of No Way Home, they really brought Spider-Man back to like a status quo. So I think the next trilogy of Spider-Man movies will be way more grounded. And I like what you said about Matt Murdock and No Way Home, how that being a tease for the characters to come. One of those gripes that a lot of people had about Spider-Man is that he was too tied to the Avengers, and I think now that he has no Stark tech to help him, now he's making his own gadgets, and it's like he has to really like not worry about, he doesn't have like a bulletproof suit or anything like that.
Right.
He has to, really worry about actual physical danger. I think we're going to see like a raw, we haven't seen this actually in a while, but I want to see like this visual of Spider-Man getting like his ass kicked and his like mask is like torn up and you see like his face and he's just like still fighting. Like
that would be such a cool thing to see, because like the previous franchises did that. They had the destroyed mask to show to make it a more personal scene. Showing Peter Parker, and I think that would be really cool. What do you think about Sony's little Sinister Six gig going on? What do you think they're going to do with that? Are they just throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks, or do you think that they're actually have a cohesive plan? There's a lot of debate about that.
So we have to say nice things, right?
Yeah, we gotta say nice things. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what Sony's doing with their Sony Sinister Six universe, Spider-Man universe. I will say that I'm excited for Kraven. I want to see how that manifests. I want to see how Aaron Taylor Johnson looks in the role.
Okay, so like with the Sinister Six plans that they had in store, there was reports that, obviously they plan on making a Sinister Six movie. And apparently they wanted to involve Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but apparently he's taking a break from acting. So I think he passed on that role in the Sinister Six film. And I think their second fallback plan is incorporating Tom Spider-Man. There's also been talks that they're going to incorporate another Spider-Man from the TASM universe, which I think, we're going with this. It could end up being Miles Morales. And I think that would be kind of a really creative way to introduce him in live action. I mean, like there's so many possibilities with that, but I really hope that Marvel Studios has some creative control with the Miles Morales aspect, because I think Sony sometimes can get in over their head. And I really, they did a great job with the End of the Spider-Verse. After Morbius, I can't lie, I'm a little bit nervous about how they're going to handle, such amazing IPs like Miles Morales and, the Sinister Six and whatnot. I don't know. Hopefully Marvel Studios is involved at some point with that.
Yeah, I think the best route for them to take would be like this, a collaboration between the two studios, which they've done with Peter Parker Spider-Man. But I think that the MCU version of Miles Morales should be the Into the Spider-Verse, because we saw in Doctor Strange they went through the animated universe.
That would be so cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah. And just like in Secret Wars 2015, that was how they rolled Miles Morales over from the Ultimate Universe into the 616 prior. So it's kind of like, it's and any Marvel movie at this point is basically fair game to come into the MCU. Any way that it manifests, from animation to 3D to any way, it can come there. So when we see Miles Morales, it'll be that Into the Spider-Verse version.
I think you just dropped a nuclear bomb idea. So you're saying that the End of the Spider-Verse Miles Morales could potentially switch over universes in Secret Wars? That is insane. I mean, that is such a solid theory.
Yeah, and we saw that with Professor Xavier and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness animated series to the live action.
That would be really cool. We heard Electro talk about a Black Spider-Man existing somewhere, and I feel like it would be really interesting to see maybe Into the Spider-Verse model could jump to different universes, or or some way they incorporate that with the TASM universe. I think that Andrew Garfield would be. I definitely think we're going to see Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man at some point. But I think it would be really interesting to see him mentor Miles Morales in live action form, and then they could just do whatever the hell they wanted with him, transferring to different universes and everything. But I don't know. I feel like it was not a coincidence that, Jamie Foxx's Electro mentioned, a Black Spider-Man existing in his universe. Maybe that's just a loose end that, never gets explored. But I think definitely it would be really interesting to see Miles Morales from the TASM universe, or maybe he jumped from the Into the Spider-Verse universe into the TASM universe and then eventually go into the MCU.
I agree, man. Going back to the Into the Spider-Verse, we saw that Miguel O'Hara 2099 that they have those watches that allow them to jump universes. So it can be as simple as him using something like that. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the Andrew Garfield and Miles Morales crossover, because I actually had a really crazy idea about how Andrew Garfield could come back as Spider-Man, and especially with him being in Miles Morales universe, I would kill Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and have Miles Morales take over in his universe. But then I would we're doing the Clone Saga. I would bring Andrew Garfield back as Ben Reilly and like dye his hair. So it's like you still have him. So you still satisfy that story of the death of Spider-Man, and it brings in Miles Morales like it does. But then you also, usher in the Clone Saga in a way that kind of brings back that character that we know his face, but we don't know him.
That would be such an interesting dynamic. And then, we kind of get the best of both worlds that way. Definitely. Yeah. And then you could even, have him also return in Secret Wars with Tobey Maguire. I mean, absolutely. I'm still crossing my fingers, hoping and praying, maybe get a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4 at some point, but I don't know. I feel like Sony's really going to have to do a lot of negotiating to get him back. I know Andrew Garfield's a lot more passionate on returning. I definitely think he'll return at some point, but maybe we'll get a Spider-Man 4. Sam Raimi has talked about how much he would love to come back and make another Spider-Man movie. He directly mentioned Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire. And I think Kirsten Dunst has even said she'd love to be returned, Mary Jane at some point. I feel like Sony is thinking, okay, Tom Holland Spider-Man is busy in the MCU. We have, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, maybe even Ben Reilly at some point, and we have Miles Morales, and there's just a lot of stuff they could do with that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I think the problem, well, I don't want to say the problem, like you said, I don't want to put words in Toby's mouth, but I think the issue that they're running into that they may have at Sony is finding the story for Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4, because like you said, he's older. That's why it was easy to, well, not easy, to make that pitch about Andrew Garfield. I think his Spider-Man is still at an age where there's still more storytelling for him. He's at a point where he can still meet new villains and then for still to have an effect on him growing as Spider-Man. But Tobey Maguire, I don't think at the point that he is in his Spider-Man career that you can't really introduce any new villains. So I think the key to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 to finish out his story as Spider-Man, but then to usher in Mayday Parker, his daughter, as the Spider-Girl.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And there was actually leaks, something they were going to allude to in No Way Home. Give us a solid closure to Tobey Maguire's story arc. I would go as far to say maybe even take some elements from Logan and just give it that, give the director full creative freedom to do whatever he wants. And then, because obviously he could be married to Kirsten Dunst's MJ. They could have, Mayday Parker. That would be such an interesting aspect. And then once his story is concluded, they could take Mayday Parker from, the Raimi universe and incorporate her into future live action Spider-Verse. She would serve as the homage or the tribute to the Raimi universe, along with, Miles Morales. Eventually, people will look at him and say, he's from the TASM universe. I feel like that would be really interesting to have the next generation of Spider-Man to, actually be from those respective universes. And I think that would be opportunity to have Miles Morales from Andrew's universe and Mayday Parker from Tobey's, and to continue them into the live action Spider-Verse. 100% agree with you.
Yes, absolutely, man. I think also, just thinking about that, you mentioning Mayday alongside Miles, we could possibly even get some kind of love triangle.
We could. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this stuff.